Hey guys, it's Matt. This is a video reaction to certain comments from yesterday's video on the guy that tried to explain the Kabbalah in that short. I found another short that's very interesting, but generally a few people said, Matt, it's very ignorant to you make this determination and make an assessment about something you don't know and don't. The basis on which I made my assessment was valid. I didn't say I knew anything about the Kabbalah. For example, someone's like, Matt, it's not complicated. You putting that out to people, you don't know a darn thing about it. You admit you don't know anything about it. It's not complicated. No, it's not. Let's see how complicated it is or not. There'd be no basis for me saying it's complicated without a full decade of investigation.
We're going to find the key to the Bible using the Zohar, which is the first word of the Bible. Genesis 1:1, Bereshit. Bet, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, Ta. It's interesting because the second word of the Bible is Bereshit, Bara, Elohim, which is Bereshit, which is created six, Bara, created, Elohim, created six, created, Elohim. And we know these six dimensions as Chesed, Gabora, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. These six dimensions make up the Zer Anpin, which is this region of the tree of life. Now, if we peer further along here, we find that Bereshit, a revealed word that includes within it a concealed word, Bara. Wherever it appears is a word that hides and guards a secret. And I'll talk later about what this key unlocks.
So guys, that tiny short is part of an ongoing Kabbalistic interpretation or argument or discussion, say, of various hundreds of pages, probably written back and forth, discussion on the first word of the Bible. The first word of the Bible, let alone the interpretation or the proper read between the lines, third or fourth tier interpretation of the Torah or certain parts of the Talmud. No, I'd be completely out of line to say it's complicated when a massive discussion starts based on the first word of the Bible. Yeah, I'm out of line. Who would possibly think Kabbalah is complicated? Just as an example, we'll go over here and see what this blog has to say. What everyone gets wrong about the first word of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1, King James Version. First verse, first word, first syllable. Oh, this is an in-depth discussion on the first syllable. First syllable, what? How long will it take to analyze, you think, to get to the end of Genesis? I don't know, sometime in the middle of the next century? The initial verse of the Bible, one we all know by heart, this is a Kabbalistic interpretation, guys. Okay, this is not just some Christian writing about the Bible. The initial verse of the Bible, one we all know by heart, doesn't actually mean what we all think it means. What? Oh, no. I have yet to find a Bible that translates it literally. The very first syllable, the very first word, our launching place into the Word of God is not Bereshit, which could be written with a, I don't know, below the a little, I don't know what that is, a little mark below the first letter. That's even complicated. Instead, it's written Bereshit, written instead without a mark. What? Can one tiny letter even matter? Okay, B-A-R-E-S-H-I-T, B-E-R-E-S-H-I-T. Really? An in-depth discussion on the first word? No. We're going to start, I do Matt, there is no conspiracy. We'll start a new one. Matt, it's not complicated. You're just stupid. Can one tiny letter even matter? Well, it changes the meaning. It doesn't mean in the beginning. It's technically in a beginning. In a beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, this is interesting. I'm just using it to confirm my notion that it's pretty darn complicated. And you know what I'm going to say? As it gets complicated, to me, that moves closer to the trick. What trick? The reality trick. Here's my new phrase. I love it. Matt, it's not complicated. According to an Israeli Jewish Hebrew professor of mine, it has always been deliberately ignored by scholars, translators, and religious leaders of Judeo-Christian faiths because no one knows what to do with it. It's brushed aside. They brush aside the first word of the Bible? What does that mean? I don't know. Just move on. Keep reading. Pretend it didn't happen. Well, the theology of the Church of Jesus Christ knows exactly what to do with it and precisely what it could mean. Our doctrine asserts that's what it says, that the creation of this earth and the surrounding heavens was not the first of God's creations. His worlds are incomprehensibly innumerable. That's a good word. So this was, in a very literal way, a beginning, one of countless beginnings. Okay, guys, just so you know, I'll be holding a retreat myself. A retreat, yeah. It'll start like the first week in October. It'll be in the hills of West Virginia somewhere, yet to be determined. We're looking for a campsite now. It'll go to the end of the year. Beginning of October to the end of the year, December 31st, yes, on what? This, Bereshit. There will be Bereshit. The Bereshit, we're gonna hold a retreat first week in October to the end of the year, just discussing the possibilities surrounding the first word and syllable of the Bible. Now, who's in? Who's with me? Well, it sounds okay, Matt, but what does it cost? It's free. You bring your own cardboard box. You have to get your own river filter, whatever those things are, life straw, whatever. You put your life straw in there. Then we're gonna hunt our own food. It doesn't cost a damn thing. I'm gonna sit back and relax in the hot springs while you hunt me squirrels. Okay, and by the end we'll have a full understanding of Bereshit and something else. That sounds like it. Okay, guys, a better way to understand Kabbalah in the most basic sense, and I didn't present it this way yesterday, but this is probably the best way to understand, is you have I allude to this with the various levels of understanding or the embedded meanings, but you have your sacred text in Judaism, okay, but it also extends to the Christian Bible and in other places. But you have the Torah, you have the Talmud, you have the Zohar, okay, we'll just start with that. So there's first level meaning, what somebody's going to be able to get out of it on their own. Okay, then there's what maybe a rabbi would get out of it after 5 or 10 years of study. But then there are more levels. There's more meaning. So a Kabbalist, if that's the right word, would say this needs to be studied and these certain things need to be learned in order to extract that third layer or fourth layer of meaning, a level of meaning that the person on the street or the relatively new rabbi would have no chance of extracting or getting close to this level of meaning unless they partake of Kabbalistic practice. It is the basic way of understanding it. Well, just a higher level of understanding sounds pretty good. But then it gets into a whole lot more than that. Of course, there's a dark side to it. There are rabbis on YouTube talking about the black magic aspect to Kabbalah. I'm no expert. I can't speak to this, but there's rabbis 20, 30, 40 years doing this that are talking about the manipulation of spiritual energies. All of that comes into play. So it's not just about getting a better understanding of the Talmud. And again, back to Matt, it's not complicated. Well, okay, the Torah is well under 1,000 pages. It's not that long. The Zohar is well under 1,000 pages, even though somebody over here said 12 books or volumes, and somebody in the comments said 22 books, whatever. It's long. The Talmud approaching 3,000 pages. Okay, that's just the basic text that this Kabbalistic practice is focusing on. That there's obviously a whole lot more to it. I'm sorry, you know what I'm going to say? I think it's a half page. I'm going to call me an idiot or a Forrest Gump or a simpleton. Go ahead. I think when you get into thousands of pages, I don't see any need for that. I see the reality trick trying to make things complicated. I don't have a lot of respect for anything that approaches thousands and thousands of pages. I think the Christian Bible is far too long, far too complicated, far too contradictory with itself. The Old Testament doesn't seem to match up with the New Testament to me. They seem to be two completely different things. And even in the New Testament, Jesus should have been very clear on what people need to do. It should be a few books. It's too long. I have a problem with that. There seems to be a gigantic focus on the origins and creation of the universe in Kabbalah. It seems to, I didn't spend decades trying to rediscover or look for the holiest of holies or whatever. I haven't put that much time in, I admit that. Matt, stop saying it then. Okay, that's clear. But the origins of the universe, who cares? We're here right now. We're here. The powerful play goes on. What is this the place to try to understand the origins of the universe? Who cares? What does that have to do with my what about yourself journey, what we need to do for ourselves here? Matt, if let's just say one day we really, whether it be Kabbalistic practice or CERN or the Big Bang studies of the Stanford University or whatever, we figure out the origins of the universe, and it's actually a mix between science and religion, and all these the Kabbalists or all these people are proving. Who cares? What does that do for me right now? Okay, so now let's just say, well, do you think we'll ever know the origins of the universe? Of course not. But let's just say somebody knows, and then they want to tell me. Okay, well, what does that do for me? Is there like a cheat code associated with once we understand the origins of the universe? Like I can stop doing, right? No more worry about yourself. I don't have to do what I need to do from my whole, the Matt that's here, potentially the Matt that's not here. Okay, so we understand this and that. Well, anything, guys, that's why it's a half page. Anything outside of ourselves in terms of information or knowledge. And Matt, don't you want to learn how to manipulate this spiritual energy? No, who cares? Anything outside is a false grail quest. I'm still waiting for somebody in a comment or somewhere in an email to come to me and say, well, Matt, these things outside of ourselves are critical. How? Why? All these videos, and I've watched maybe 10 to 12 over the last few years, lost touch with the channel. There used to be this, or maybe he's still there, Mr. Mythos. These long, in-depth stories. I'm sure he's talked about John Dee many times, but in-depth stories about this certain grimoire, which is, it's like very complicated spell book to summon a demon. I remember one very clearly where he was actually using, or a way grimoire would explain over a 5 or 6 or 7 week process, and you have to do this or fast and all. You use this grimoire to summon an archangel to then control a demon. Okay, it's all very interesting. I like listening to these sorts of videos. While I'm, eating my Philly cheesesteak and stuff. But I always think, like, who would want to do that and why? What's it going to do for you? Going to get you a better, let's just say that you're digging in the attic or whatever, or in the basement, and a grimoire. What the hell is this? It's like that book in Harry Potter with the teeth. They tried to bite his hand off. What are you going to do? Who would care? What am I going to do? Use something like that to get a better car or a better house? Or who cares? Why do people, this gets into a huge conversation that's much broader than what we're talking about now. Why would anybody normal go into for lack of better words, a dark place to better their position here? Use some form of black magic, or I can understand you work hard, you want to save a little money, make a little money, buy a house that your wife appreciates, you can have a few parties, and there's a pool out back for the kid. And once a year you can take a vacation. And hey, it's okay to make a little money. Not everybody has to subsist like me, just enough money to have the cats in case there's a vet bill or something. But in terms of trying to go that extra mile, whatever you want to call it, the dabbling in the dark arts or magic or grimoire or, certain parts from, it's not me saying this about Kabbalah. Just listen to a few rabbis talking about the dark aspect or the black magic aspect of Kabbalah. And just to go there for what? To benefit your position here? When from the perspective outside of here, we're already dead, and you're going to dabble in that dark stuff. You have no concept of time, how quickly things pass. You can't hold on to a moment. Time itself doesn't exist. To take a risk with soul tokens, or to take a risk with your very soul or spirit, and who knows what the ramifications are in dabbling with some of this stuff. The deal with the chief commander, for what? To get a big magenta speedboat, to get whacked off behind the dock? It makes no sense. It does really bring back the notion that the NPC is real. Because it makes sense to a degree that the NPC thinks this is, or maybe truly so, believes this is all they are. So they'll do anything to better their position here. Where once we get an idea that people that listen to this channel and we're all very similar incarnations, that we're bigger than this place, who would take a risk with their very spiritual or soul stuff to get more shit here? What, to anybody with that big perspective, there's no difference between a little piece of shit toy at the bottom of a Cracker Jack box, a little plastic piece of shit compass, and a gigantic magenta cigarette boat with twin 500 horsepower engine. It's all materialistic crap from a big picture. From a big picture perspective, it doesn't mean shit. So to dabble into anything dark, whatever it may be, to better your position here, who would take that risk? Again, I'm not going to spend much more time trying to understand Kabbalah. I will go back to the person that said, Matt, it's not complicated. Why are you talking about things you don't understand? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how convincing this was, but it was just to make sure everybody knows, yeah, I'm sorry, it seems to be pretty complicated. I'm not sure what the thousands and thousands of pages are, the tens of thousands of supporting text. I don't know what all that is for if it's a half page. Maybe I'm missing something. Thanks for listening.